Rhett Lowder gave us a glimpse into the future on Tuesday.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr, and I am a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. Seriously, I've got the baby pictures and Reds gear to prove it, and I've been hosting this podcast now for 6 seasons. I'm also the channel manager for the Locked On MLB channel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day, and we are your Cincinnati Reds every single day. I want to make this show completely accessible. We want to talk some Reds baseball with you all year long. We're here through the end of the season, through the off season, into next year, spring training and beyond. We're here with you every single day, and we want to just kind of talk some Reds baseball. We'll look at some geeky stats. We'll overreact to different things about the season and all that great stuff, but mostly just happy to be talking baseball here with you. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your day. And I'm glad that you're with me because a couple of pitchers who should be part of next year's bullpen were on display Tuesday night. The win showed Elly De La Cruz's next big challenge to overcome. I'll explain what that is here in a few minutes, but we will begin, of course, with Rhett Lowder as he got his first career win on Tuesday night. That's all coming up on today's episode that is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Rhett Lowder gets his first career win on Tuesday night as the Reds shut out the stinking Cardinals. 2 straight shutouts. Pretty nice. They shut out the Braves on Monday night, and they shut out the Cardinals on Tuesday night. Group effort, of course, not one pitcher doing it all. The Reds starting pitching staff has been decimated. But hey, everybody that's been filling in has been filling in admirably because now Rhett Lowder has added 5 innings onto his ledger. He's now up to 15 and a third career innings, and he's allowed 1 run. That's it. But he also did a bunch of other stuff. I'm going to tell you this. Rhett Lowder is fun to watch pitch. I really enjoy watching the cerebral chess match that he has with guys. And you can tell there's a lot of jitters involved. There's a lot of anxiety that he's probably working through at different periods of an at-bat. You can see he might pull a pitch or he might, kind of release it a little bit too early and it kind of sails on him a bit, but he comes right back in the zone with a strike and he gets right back on track. In fact, in this game, there were multiple occasions where he had a 3-ball count, but he didn't walk anybody. That was something that we said from his first 2 starts that had really sort of not really bummed us out, but it was something that we were concerned for. He didn't walk anybody in this one, struck out 3 in the 5 innings, did allow 5 hits, but was able to completely strand all of those guys. And in fact, in a couple of cases, he got double plays to erase some of those base runners because that was his MO in this game. He got ground ball contact. It wasn't always weak. In fact, the average exit velocity against him in this game was at 90 miles an hour. You'd like to see that come down a bit. But I'm not going to nitpick with stuff like that in your first couple of career starts because dude is pitching well. One of the most impressive parts about Rhett Lowder's game, if you haven't gotten the chance to watch him, is that he has a 4-pitch mix. None of those pitches does he throw more than 30% of the time. At least in this game, he didn't throw the most often that he threw a pitch was his sinker. He only threw it 30% of the time. His changeup, he threw the least, but that was 21% of the time. So you cannot key in on 1 or 2 pitches with Rhett Lowder. He's going to work in the 4-seamer. He's going to work in the sinker. He's going to work in the slider, and he's going to work in the changeup. And he did a fantastic job. There were a couple of times, man, he was dotting the corner with his change or with the slider, and he had his sinker kind of working. There was a little bit, the combination, I'm not going to go all the way this far, but it gave me, like bits of memories of Luis Castillo. I'm not saying that's who he is. I'm not saying that I'm comparing him to Luis Castillo, but his sinker and his changeup were working in similar fashions. They were starting outside the zone. They were breaking back into the zone. Or in the case of the changeup, there is one that I might be able to close my eyes and see it for a couple of, at least a week or two. He was pitching to Lars Nootbaar, and he had one strike on him, and he drops in this beauty of a changeup that catches the low and outside corner, and home plate umpire Larry Vanover actually saw it for a strike, which was a miracle in and of itself. That man's strike zone, I don't know if he needs to get better glasses, but my goodness, he was bad. But he got this call right because Rhett Lowder got the pitch right. It was absolutely perfect. But I loved everything that I saw from him. I think he's got a good shot at opening day rotation placement next year. Because I think in a perfect world, the Reds are considering Graham Ashcraft for the bullpen. They're probably still going to try to get starter stuff out of him. But it's been 2 years now, and we have seen some good results, and we have seen some not so good results, and I firmly believe that if you tell the guy that he can go 100% for 100% of his pitches, he's going to be a far more effective pitcher, i.e. get him out into the bullpen. If it's 2 innings, 3 innings, whatever, that's fine, but I would love to see Rhett Lowder over Graham Ashcraft. I'm saying it right now. I've only seen him for 3 starts, but I know that this dude can pitch. Rhett Lowder can pitch. And I know he's young. I know he's got a long career ahead of him. And I'm not saying that he is established by any means, but I love what I'm seeing. The upside looks phenomenal. And I feel like he is a guy that you can feel good about every 5th day in 2025. Plus, he has this very interesting distinction in that the Reds called him up on August 30th, so he will actually maintain rookie eligibility for 2025. So he will still be able to go out and, compete for the Rookie of the Year award and, and all that other stuff, what all that entails. Remember, there's incentives for the Reds should he win that award and then things of that nature. But suffice it to say, I have loved the Rhett Lowder experience so far, and he's really shown us a glimpse. I mean, One of the things that we talked about for the better part of 2 years with Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo was how can they develop a more consistent pitch mix? Rhett Lowder already has that. Rhett Lowder already has the mind to be a pitcher. And it's a joy to watch him pitch. And there were some great camera shots from Bally Sports that were showing him talking with Derek Johnson and really just soaking it all in. At least, he had the demeanor of somebody that was actively listening. You can tell when someone's not listening to you. At least I can. But it looked like Rhett Lowder was really listening to Derek Johnson and what he had to say. I think that this whole thing where the entire starting pitching staff hit the IL may have been a pretty good thing for the Reds' future. Because let's face it, even back when the starting rotation, the week before they hit the IL, kind of felt like the Reds were falling out of the race even then. So this opened up the door for Rhett Lowder to get to the major leagues, to get this experience. I love this for him, and I love this for the Reds because the future is bright with Rhett Lowder in the rotation. But the win on Tuesday night revealed a challenge for Elly De La Cruz. I'll explain what that is coming up next. There's not too many more home games down at Great American Ballpark this season, but the best way to get to any of them is with GameTime. They've got amazing last-second deals on great seats down at Great American Ballpark. Or if you want to travel with the Reds and follow them along on the road, if you're going to St. Louis, if you're going to Cleveland here in a couple of weeks, going to Pittsburgh, any one of those series, or Chicago, GameTime is the perfect way to get tickets to those games because they'll show you the view from your seats. Wherever you're looking at in the ballpark, you will know exactly what you got. If it's an obstructed view, if it's a weird angle or something like that, you can find a different ticket because GameTime makes it easy. Plus, they've got all-in pricing, so you know exactly what you're getting into. When it says it's $15, it's $15. And they make it easy, too, if there's a weird rainout situation or something like I ran into when I went down to Atlanta. They make it easy to resell your tickets. Check out the GameTime app today. Download it and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase at GameTime. Because what time is it? It's game time. Thank you for making Locked On Reds your first listen today and every day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB as Sully has you covered as we head toward the playoffs, only a couple of weeks away before the regular season is over. Sully's going to keep you up to date with everything that you need to know about the league, and he's going to sprinkle in a little bit of humor and some of his trademark wit as well. That's Locked On MLB, just like Locked On Reds. It's free, and it's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Speaking of every single day, shout out to our everydayers out there. Thank you for making us part of your life each and every day, talking some Reds baseball. Coming up on the next Locked On Reds podcast, make sure you join us as we continue to look at what is going on with these final couple of weeks with the Reds. What do you need to know? What do you need to pay attention to? You may not be watching every day, but I am. I'm going to be here talking about the Reds every single day. And I saw something on Tuesday night because the Reds win 3-0. They had great pitching from Rhett Lowder, and we'll get to the bullpen here in just a little bit because I think there are a couple of guys that will be here in 2025 that performed on Tuesday night as well. But on the hitting side of things, the Reds did everything they needed to do in the fifth inning. They got 3 runs. Elly was one of those. And that's all they needed. 3-0 was the final score. And Elly is interesting because I think that his elite talent is undeniable, especially when it comes to his speed. What will vault him into perennial MVP consideration? Yes, I said it. Literally every single year, Elly De La Cruz could be an MVP hopeful. He just needs to hone in his ability to employ his elite talents strategically. I know I just said a lot of words there, but let me kind of break this down a little bit. I had a great text conversation with one of our insiders. Shout out to Chris for the text conversation we had during last night's game. And I had mentioned something about, him getting thrown out at second base, and it was something that really showed to me Elly's got something he needs to work on. And everybody does. I mean, quite frankly, in every walk of life, if you don't have something to work on, then you're probably getting worse at whatever you're doing. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. That's just how life goes. And not trying to make this a motivational speech, just, saying a fact of life. So when it comes to Elly De La Cruz's game, he should always be looking for areas to improve, and we have found one. Because early on in the game, in the first inning, he draws a walk from Andre Pallante, which, by the way, man, I hate watching the Reds face that guy. He doesn't do anything special. He just keeps the ball on the ground, and that just infuriates me. Because, I mean, in this particular game, real quick aside before we get back on this Elly conversation, is that Andre Pallante, walked 5 guys. He had 6 strikeouts in the game, but he walked 5 guys. He allowed a bunch of hits. There was a lot of opportunities for the Reds on the bases. In fact, 3 of the first 4 innings, they got a guy to third base, but they didn't score just because he would get that ground ball that gets him out of the jam. And look, I say this out of respect for the game that he has on the mound. And obviously he is a professional pitcher for a reason, but my God, it's annoying to watch the Reds face Andre Pallante. Okay, rant over. What I had to say about that. So Elly De La Cruz draws a walk in the first inning. He draws 2 walks in this game, and he also hits a single as well. We'll kind of come back to that here in just a moment. But after the walk, he steals second on the very first pitch. Second pitch, he steals third, and he gets such a big jump. And he reads Palante's really slow move to the plate so well that they don't even attempt to throw to third. That's how quick he was. So the Cardinals, Palante and the catcher, Pedro Pagán, kind of put that in their minds so that when Elly's on base next time, they got a plan. Guess what happens? He draws another walk, and he's on first base. Second base is open. What's going to happen? You, me, if you were watching this game, our friend J.D. Haffern over at Locked On Cardinals, he knew it was coming, right? First pitch, Elly was going to go. What happened? First pitch, he tries to go. But this time, Andre Palante does a quick pitch, and they set up a pitch out where Pedro Pagán stands up as he catches it, so he's ready to just throw a strike to second, gets him out easy. It may seem innocuous in a game that really doesn't mean a whole lot as far as the playoff race is concerned, and here in September, but it shows to me one thing, is that Elly, in the heat of the moment, will just rely on his instinct and rely on his talent to get him there. But he is facing however many other players in the major leagues that got there on their talent. So there's got to be a little bit of a give and take. He's got to understand he's not just going to will a stolen base every single time. And I'm not trying to harp on this and say that this is happening all the time, but in situations like this where guys have figured him out, maybe try to steal on the second pitch. Because I don't know this to be true, but I have a hard time believing that the Cardinals would call back-to-back 2 straight pitch outs just to make sure that they could throw out Elly at second. And what you do is you hang on that pitch out. It's ball 1. Tyler Stephenson's at the plate, so it's a 1-0 count. So now the pitcher's like, man, I got to figure out how to pitch to him, but also Elly's on first. He's definitely stealing second now. Things like this. Like, it's the margins. Because Chris called me out, and shout out to Insider Chris, which, by the way, if you want to become a Locked On Reds Insider, text the word Insider to 513-597-0944 for a free 14-day trial today. You get $4.99 a month after that, but it's a direct text line to me. We'll talk Reds every single day throughout the season and throughout the offseason as well. But Chris said this. He said, anecdotally, I agree about the mental game, and he has a higher baseline. I think we were both really saying is that he needs to be more consistent. I'd like to see prolonged stretches of decreasing rates in fielding and base running errors. No matter what, though, he should stay aggressive on the base paths. So how can he mature to be both aggressive and consistent? And I think that one's easy. It's just probably maturing within the game. Because, like Chris said, and he and I texted back and forth about this, because I came off a little bit critical of Elly's mental game, but I am one that constantly advocates for the fact that he has a strong mental game. And I think to say that he has an overall smart approach to baseball, but when it comes to these one-off moments, these plays, the battle within the battle, right? He falls back on his instinct. He leans on his talent and just expects that he can outwill this thing and he will get it because he wants it more than the other guy. And while that works in movies, that doesn't work in real life. And you can see it in some different guys. Like, think about the perennial MVP candidates. Watch Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani's a really good base stealer, but he never really goes when you expect it. He's just got a mental side of it. There's something about Shohei Ohtani that he knows the exact moment to swing, the exact moment to run, the exact moment to, do whatever. He's such a good baseball player. And I think that there's a mental aspect of focus and strategy that if Elly adds that to his game, man, he's going to be so dangerous. We won't be talking about 6 or 7 WAR seasons. We'll be talking about 8, 9, 10 WAR. I mean, he's got the talent. He just has to add the focused strategy that you see. And you can see it with Mike Trout and the way that they play. Like, there was even a play in the field that kind of shows that, yes, it's all about he knows he can make a play, but it could have been rough. It was a ground ball that was right up the middle. It was shaded towards shortstop on the second base. You know, it was going to second base, but it was shaded toward the shortstop side. And Jonathan India was kind of shaded over there in their bit of a shift that they had going on. So he set up like he was going to field it. But then Elly kind of came streaming over, grabs the ball, throws it to first. They get the out. There's no problem. But Cowboy really broke it down on the Bally Sports broadcast very well, is that you can tell neither one of them were talking. Elly wasn't calling India off. India wasn't calling Elly off. And they've played the middle infield all year long. So maybe there was something that India is just used to Elly. He's going to be there. He's going to make the play, whatever. But there's an element of that it's just like, just one more tweak. Just take the dial and turn it one more notch. And Elly be like, hey, I got it, man. Because what if India doesn't think that? What if India went for that? Then it's an error. They bump into each other. You're not getting the out. Everybody's safe. Momentum moves to the Cardinals. It's things like that it's like, if he can turn that dial, it's just got to go up one notch, man. We're not talking about rebuilding his understanding of baseball, because he is the kind of guy, he overcomes these obstacles, right? Like, remember when we said he needed better plate discipline? His walk rate went from 8% last year to 10% this year. And like, I know he could still strike out less. He's definitely not perfect at that. But his strikeout rate went from 33% last year to 30% this year. And he's still just 22. I'm about to be 23, but, I digress. He's still super young, still just beginning. And he has done this all throughout his minor league career. And now, as his major league career has finally gotten through its first full year and we're into his second full year and all this other stuff, when you challenge Elly De La Cruz, he overcomes. And I think that he'll overcome this as well. He is going to be just so stinking good. And we are going to need to enjoy every minute of it. Because I don't know what the future holds as far as contracts go and all this stuff. I know this. I'm not going to let it bother me right now, because I can't do anything about it anyway. But it doesn't seem like, Scott Boras is going to let the Reds do anything about it either. But I see this, like you kind of turn that dial up just one more notch on the mental focus and the strategy of the ball game. And Elly De La Cruz might be the most impossible person to get out on a diamond, if he can just do that just a little bit more. 2 pitchers closed out the game for the Reds on Tuesday who will be back in the Reds bullpen next year. I'll tell you who coming up next. Man, we are in one of the best times of the year for sports, and there's no better way to take advantage of all of it than with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, because you can go into your favorite sport, like with the rest of the baseball season that we've got going along, find your favorite players like Elly De La Cruz, Tyler Stevenson, or Jonathan India, and find your favorite stats like hits, steals, runs scored, and click more or less. Plus, they've got great promos going on as well. Right now, they've got a promo that you can take Bears quarterback Caleb Williams to throw at least 1 passing yard, and you click more on that, and you win. For the rest of September, if he throws at least 1 passing yard, you'll win. So add that pick to your Prize Picks entries today and just see that money start rolling on in. Check out Prize Picks and download the app and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. Again, that's Prize Picks. Download it today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. And you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win. But hey, you can always win over at Prize Picks by picking more or less on your favorite players and your favorite stats, because it's Prize Picks. Run your game. You can catch every pitch of the Reds' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Reds. Also, bookmark CincinnatiRedsTalk.com for written content about your Cincinnati Reds. I'm writing over there. James Rapin's writing over there. Greg Kuffner at Reds Daily on Twitter is also writing over there as well. And we've got a lot of great content for you. Make sure you bookmark CincinnatiRedsTalk.com today. And where we want to conclude today's podcast, talking about a couple of guys that we saw out of the bullpen yesterday. Steve and I had this discussion about guys that we have confidence in and guys who should be back for the Reds bullpen, contract status be darned, that sort of thing for next season. And I kind of wanted to rehash that a little bit because there were two guys that we did not mention who pitched on Tuesday. It was Emilio Pagán and Brent Suter. And I know, because I do this too, when I hear the name Emilio Pagán this year, I kind of cringe a little bit because I remember a couple of different times where he gave up some key homers and the Reds ended up losing those games. And then he was on the injured list a lot this year. In fact, there was a long period of time where I kind of forgot he was on the team. But the little bit of time that he has pitched and he has been healthy, he's actually been pretty good. He has great strikeout and walk rates this year. I mean, when you look at the fact that, his strikeout percentage and his walk percentage, his strikeout percentage has gone up from last season and his walk rate has gone down, i.e., both of those are better. And he's really good at getting guys to swing and miss at pitches outside the strike zone. He's almost at 33% of the time. It's like 32.8%. So we'll call it 33%. We'll say 1 out of every 3 pitches that he throws outside the strike zone gets swung at. But it's still to say, like, his stuff has really played well this season. It's just we haven't seen it enough to really get too crazy about it. But when you look at like his different statistics like fielding, independent pitching, his expected ERA and things like that, it's right on line with where it's been the last 3 years. So that's been encouraging to see. There's not been a huge drop off in anything like that because you are talking about a dude that this year he's 33, he'll be 34 next year. So he's kind of getting into the part of his career where it's like, what kind of pitcher will he be? And last season in Minnesota, he wasn't a high strikeout rate guy, and he kind of gave up a lot of fly balls. And while he does still tend to get hit a little bit hard, he is at least able to limit the damage in most cases. What happened to him last night? Gave up a couple of hits, and he walked a guy, but he struck out the side. So it was stressful, but it worked. And he has a player option for $8 million next year. He's been making $8 million in 2024. I got to believe that, with the injuries that he's dealt with and stuff like that, can't imagine that he's going to hit the open market and just make more money next year. So with that being a total player option, the Reds don't have any sort of decision-making power in this. It's just, does Emilio Pagán want $8 million next year? I think he's probably going to pick that up, and he'll be in the Reds bullpen next season. And hopefully he'll stay a little bit more healthy and we get to see him on a more regular basis, because I feel like we would have seen him be a more consistent middle relief guy, maybe even a strong setup man, whenever we started to see Fernando Cruz falter a little bit. And then there's Brent Suter. Brent Suter, which, outside of pitching for just a moment, he is the Roberto Clemente Award nominee for the Reds. He does a ton of work in the Cincinnati community, and anytime anyone talks about him, he gets all kinds of praise as one of the best teammates that they have in the clubhouse and the kind of guy that they absolutely want to keep around. He's got a club option for $3.5 million next year. I don't see any chance. I don't even know that there's a logical explanation. Let's say it this way, I'll be surprised if the Reds don't pick up $3.5 million for a solid left-handed reliever who keeps the contact very weak. He has been elite at inducing weak contact. He's not been the best at ground ball rate. He's not 50% like where he was last year, but he has been better than most pitchers in the Reds bullpen. But one other thing that he has been very elite at is limiting the walks. In fact, he cut his walk rate in half from a year ago. And he's dealt with some injuries and stuff like that too. So I don't think he's going to get to the mark. He might get close to the mark of the innings pitch that he had last year. He won't hit the appearance mark that he had for the Rockies last year. But what he has shown us has been good. Now, next year, he'll be 36 years old. There might be a little bit of a funny, some sort of nickname that we'll give the bullpen about the Reds bullpen being kind of old, depending on who is back and who is new and things like that for the Reds bullpen. But Brent Suter will be back as well, because I believe that the Reds pick up this $3.5 million option. I mean, think about this. Between the player option of Emilio Pagán and the club option for Brent Suter, that's $11.5 million for two solid relief guys. They're not probably going to be your setup man, but you're going to trust them in a lot of different cases. And Brent Suter, honestly, I thought he could have finished the game on Tuesday night. He only threw 7 pitches in the one inning that he saw. Now, they could be trying to keep him fresh. The Reds have a couple of more games before they have another off day, and they're all on the road. So they could be trying to keep him fresh for that run, and they needed some work for Emilio Pagán, so it was good to see him get in there. One other thought, too, Justin Wilson got into this game. He's due to be a free agent next year. Who's next? I kind of want to see the Reds kind of move on from Justin Wilson. He's been fine. He's not been great. There's definitely been some blow-ups that we can think about that he has cost the Reds, but you can say that about any relief pitcher, really. But for the most part, I kind of want to see who the Reds got next. I mean, they don't really have any lefties down in AAA that you get excited about. Maybe they bring in another left-hander, but he was a late addition anyway in spring training. So maybe you see a Zach Maxwell next year's bullpen or something like that, or just go out and get a different pitcher. I don't know that I need to see any more of Justin Wilson. His story's been great coming back from injury and his Tommy John surgery that he went through and all this other stuff, but I think it's time to move on and see what else you can get. He's the kind of guy that is the perfect example of he's seen a decent amount of innings this year out of the bullpen. The Reds need to upgrade those innings next year. We'll be talking a lot about that throughout the offseason. We're going to be with you every single day throughout the end of this season, throughout the offseason, and through spring training and on into next year, because we talk about the Reds every single day here on the Locked On Reds podcast. But hey, before we get going, I would like to invite you one more time to become a Locked On Reds insider, because I'm offering a 14-day free trial if you join me by texting the word insider to 513-597-0944. We'll text back and forth daily about the Reds. You can become that friend in your friend group that everybody's coming to for Reds news and opinions and all that good stuff. And you can just talk baseball with me. Looking forward to it. After the trial is over, it is $4.99 a month. But hey, let's talk Reds. Again, text the word insider to 513-597-0944 for a 14-day free trial to become a Locked On Reds insider. But that'll wrap up this edition of the Locked On Reds podcast. Thanks as always for making us your first listen every single day. For your next listen, check out Locked On MLB, as Sully has you covered leading up to the MLB playoffs every single day. It's just like Locked On Reds, free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And you can trust that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.